Thank you for joining us today for the PPM Global Services webinar, What's New in Primavera P6 Professional 8.3. My name is Jake Lilly. I am the Director of Professional Services for PPM Global Services, Inc. And I want to take a moment to introduce not only our organization, but also our speaker for today, Ms. Carrie Evans. Let's see. Okay, so PPM Global Services is a provider of project portfolio management, contract management, and scheduling solutions. As an Oracle Gold partner, PPM Global Services offers the strength of an authorized Oracle solution provider while maintaining the agility of a small company with the ability to deliver. We are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and we employ training, consulting, and implementation professionals throughout the United States. The services that we provide fall into three categories. First, we are an Oracle Primavera partner, and we provide training, installation, and consulting services. We've actually implemented Primavera on 3 continents. We also provide project management, project scheduling, and project control services. Our professionals have managed projects across the globe, and we have a great team who can supplement or augment your team of professionals if you have projects that exceed your capacity. And then finally, we provide PMP and CAPM exam preparation training services. So these exam preparation training services are designed to help people who are preparing to take their PMP exam, which is governed by the Project Management Institute. We do have a series of free webinars that we have scheduled. Of course, the first one is today, which is What's New in Primavera P6 8.3. Our next webinar is scheduled for 2 weeks from today, and it's Friday, May 16th, and that is Introduction to Visualizer. Now, this next webinar has filled up very quickly. We are going to make a waiting list available, so please check back if you wish to be placed on our waiting list, and we can notify you once the seat becomes available. We also conduct public training classes. And so our next public training class will be a 3-day Oracle Primavera P6 Professional Fundamentals Release 8.3 training class. This training class is an extension of the topics that you will see today. So today we will spend 1 hour discussing Primavera P6 8.3. In our public training class, we spend 3 days discussing the functionality of Primavera 8.3. This is a training class that's conducted live and online. It is a hands-on training class. We host the software for this training class, so you do not need to own or install the Primavera software in order to participate in this training class. And that training class will be taught by Carrie Evans, who is your presenter today for this webinar. July 14th through the 16th, we have a 3-day PMP online boot camp. Again, this boot camp is designed to help professionals who are preparing for their PMP or CAPM exam. This boot camp is taught live and online by a live certified instructor, a PMP instructor. We do send out course materials to the students in advance of the class. So the instructor is live online presenting the curriculum, and each student will have a hard copy version of that curriculum that they will use to participate in the class throughout the course of the 3 days. This class also qualifies as 35 contact hours required by PMI to apply for the PMP exam. If you wish to register for either of these classes, please visit ppmglobalservices.com. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our instructor for today, Ms. Carrie Evans. Carrie Evans has been with our organization now for a couple of years, and she had experience prior to joining our team. Carrie has experience teaching Primavera and implementing Primavera P6 solutions in a wide variety of fields and industries, including oil and gas, manufacturing, engineering and construction, the public sector, information technology, and she has also taught classes for Oracle University. Carrie Evans has a number of certifications. Carrie is a certified Oracle Primavera P6 EPPM implementation specialist. She's also a certified Oracle Primavera contract management implementation specialist. She's a certified aerospace and defense specialist for Primavera, as well as engineering and construction specialist, oil and gas specialist, natural resources specialist, and she's also certified as a Primavera pre-sales specialist. So needless to say, Carrie Evans is highly capable, highly confident, and she's a fantastic instructor. We're very glad that she's available today to lead this webinar. So with that, I'm going to turn the rest of the webinar over to Ms. Carrie Evans to lead. And please note that this webinar is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, then simply do not participate during the question and answer session of this meeting. All right, Carrie, let me switch over to you. Great. Okay, Carrie, we are viewing your screen.
Okay, great, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I hope I can live up to it. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks again for joining us today. Just a brief overview of how this webinar is going to go. We have, a presentation slides, and we're actually going to cover the last 3 releases of Primavera. So we're going to look at 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3. A lot of that functionality and those features are only enhanced throughout those 3 releases, so we want to touch on all of it. We are going to be going back and forth from the PowerPoint presentation to P6 on some of these features where we can actually show that functionality for you guys. So we'll start with what's new in Primavera 8.1. I do have a couple of slides in here that are just an overview of the things we're going to talk about, and then we're going to drill down into these bullets to talk more about these features. So first we're going to look at improved security with users with the admin super user profile in P6. So with release 8.1, they actually changed the structure of security to where if I'm an admin super user for my organization, and say I'm the only admin super user for that organization, then I'm the only user who can actually create another admin super user, add, edit, or create that user and that profile for that user. Timescale logic diagrams. So we are going to talk quite a bit about timescale logic diagrams throughout this entire presentation, and those of you that are familiar with 8.3, you know that has been enhanced to a feature called Visualizer now. So timescale logic diagrams are just a way to condense a project's schedule into smaller snapshots. The convenient timescale logic viewer, which seamlessly is launched from within the P6 application. It facilitates creating, customizing, saving, and printing timescale logic diagrams. We also have customizable toolbars with the release 8.1. So it's an improved default arrangement of toolbars and command buttons, which reduces visual clutter on your screen. So it allows you to identify the icons and the functions that you use regularly in P6 and display those as a toolbar so you can quickly access the functions and the features that you use on a regular basis. So I'm going to move into the software to show you those customizable toolbars. So first I want to show you, just to give you a layout of what we are looking at, I'm logged into Primavera. I'm in my activity screen. I do have a project open. At the top here I have my menu bar with File, Edit, View, and at the bottom below that menu bar I have my toolbars. So my toolbars, you can see, all have a little black arrow next to them, and that gives me the opportunity, ability to select on that black arrow and add or remove icons from that toolbar. So for instance, if I don't use my resource usage profile, I can remove that icon from my toolbar, maybe add another icon that I do use regularly. I also have the ability to remove an entire toolbar or add a new toolbar to this bar. So if I right-click on my toolbar, you can see I have a number of options. These are all toolbars, and if I select on one, so I select on Action here, you see that populate with action icon. I can select here to see the buttons again, that I have available for that toolbar. And those of you who are familiar with Primavera, you know that there are a number of different ways to do everything. So I can also come into my View menu and come down to Toolbars. And again, I can turn on and off those toolbars here. Also, if I come back to Toolbars in my View menu and down to Customize, I can customize these further. Again, in this Toolbars tab in my Customize window, another place where I can add or display those toolbars. Kind of a cool feature is you can actually create your own custom toolbar. So I have a new button right here, and I've actually done that here at the bottom. So I select my custom toolbar. I've chosen icons that, by default belong in different toolbars, but I know that these are the functions that I use regularly. So I've created myself just a custom toolbar with those icons that I use. So I move over to my Commands tab. I actually have a lot of options as to what commands are housed in which menu items. So I select on these menu drop-downs to the left. I can see which commands on the right are within those menus. I can actually select here on a menu item, and I can move these commands into a different menu bar if I so choose. So if I have my bars here in View, and maybe I think it makes more sense for it to go in Edit, I can actually drag and drop that into my Edit menu. I can also grab an entire menu bar and put that into another menu as well. So it offers you a lot of customization around those toolbars. Our last tab here is our Options tab. So it allows me to choose here personalized menus and toolbars. I can choose to show my menus just recently used commands first. So it's going to give me a truncated list of options based on what I use recently or what I use often. Once I have that truncated list, I'll get a double arrow at the bottom of that menu I can click, and that'll show me the full menu. I can also choose to view larger icons and some menu animation as well. So that's just changing the way whenever you select a menu, how that menu is dropping down. Next, we have new in Release 8.1, page breaks by group band. So P6 Professional supports page breaks with layouts. Similar to reports, layouts can be printed, and page breaks determine if output will flip the chart or other data onto separate pages. Our page breaks can be set manually in the page setup dialog box or automatically based on group band values. So I've just added a little screenshot at the bottom here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. You've worked hard creating a layout for your management. You go to print preview, and you see at the bottom that grouping band at the end of the page, and all the data underneath that grouping band is on the next page. So it gives you the option to actually break that and put a page break in so you don't have that situation. And I'll show you in Primavera the two places where we can set those page breaks. So my first option is I can go to my Group and Sort By dialog box. And I have a column here for page break. I can click in that column to say that I know that at level 5 of my responsibility code, that's where I want my page break to be. I also have that option in my page setup. So if I navigate to my page setup and then to my options tab, I have that option at the very bottom of that tab. It's going to break page every group. So I select that. I'm going to click OK here so you can see what it does. So it shows me that every time there's a new group, it's going to drop that to the next page. Next, new in 8.1, we have Apply Actuals and Summarize Project Run as Java Services. So you can view the status of these services in the Job Status dialog box accessible from the Tools menu in the client application. You can also be notified when a service completes or fails. Auto-refresh group data by window. We can enable or disable automatic refresh of group data for window in P6. This does apply to the active window only, and it can be different for each open window. By default, disable auto reorganization, which is the name of this feature, is turned off. And that means that the window data will automatically reorganize unless you enable this feature. Auto reorganization applies to window level data only, so you're not going to see that follow you into dialog boxes. And when you change your views, apply a filter, cut, copy, paste, refresh data in the client, it will automatically reorganize that data regardless of whether that disable auto reorganization is on or off. So I move back to my application here. I want to show you guys this auto reorganization. Right now I am sorted by my activity ID. And if I go to my Tools menu, this is where I'll see my option, my feature, Disable Auto Reorganization. Right now this feature is disabled. So if I change my activity ID from A1050 to A1025 and hit Enter, you'll see it automatically reorganizes that sorting to make that activity ID sort true. So I go to my Tools and then enable Disable Auto Organization, and I change that back to A1050. You'll see that it doesn't automatically reorganize. So if maybe you're statusing your project or changing actual start dates and you see those activities jumping around automatically on you and you don't like having to go then and scroll through to find it after it's been reorganized, you can enable that function and you won't see that automatically refresh. And then whenever you do want that sort to become true again, you can refresh your information using F5 and you'll see that sort then drop back down. Client web delineation and integration. This greater web support and ease of use without sacrificing the raw power of the P6 professional client. The application's administrative function has been moved to the web application to allow the client interface to focus entirely on that planner scheduler functionality. You can continue to use the optional client application, P6 EPPM Professional, with its strong core scheduling features. You may prefer to migrate to and benefit from the greatly expanded capabilities and convenience found in P6 Web Application if your organization needs enterprise functionality. Then oftentimes you do see that maybe your managers, your executives are using the P6 Web while you still have those planners and schedulers using that client application for that raw power. Next, we have a streamlined installer in 8.1. So P6 Professional installs all of its files into a single directory with fewer required registry settings. The two main benefits of this installer is that its footprint is simple and it's easier for IT administrators to deploy. So they can actually push that installation down over the network to the user's desktop. I actually had this option at the last organization I was working at. So I went to their support site. I chose that I needed Primavera 8.3, it just pushed that installation right down to my desktop, and nobody from IT ever actually physically came and touched my computer to install that application. P6 Professional Release 8 and version 7 can be installed side by side. But if you are using P6 XPK, you must uninstall version 7 before you can upgrade to version 8. Next, we have an improved HTML editor. The HTML editor in P6 Professional provides an expanded set of formatting options for use with notebook and description fields. So I'll move into the application and show you where you'll see that difference is. So we have, again, I'm just going to show you our notebook topics, and it is formatted the same as it was for the most part in the earlier versions. I can add a notebook topic, and then I'll have my description here on the right side. The only difference is, instead of being able to type right into this field, I now have to click Modify and type my note here. And when I click OK, I'll see that populate. Next, we have command line support. So P6 ePPM supports running batch report jobs and exporting projects from a command line. So as a note, to view P6 professional reports in P6, you select the Store Report and Work Products and Documents option when creating report batches or printing reports. Improved feedback and communication. So P6 Professional provides activity-level feedback capabilities so that the project manager and schedulers can collaborate with field personnel on an activity-by-activity basis. Project managers are notified when notes have been added from the field, and then they may easily view and also respond to those notes within the application. The feedback field, once you type a note in there, it's actually time-stamped with non-editable history to maintain an accurate audit log. This feature allows real-time communication with accurate history, minimizing delays in execution of project work. I'm going to navigate now back to P6 into my feedback tab, and I did type just a short little note in here so you can see how that time stamps and dates this information. So I have a note to my resources, feedback from my resources. If I see it, feedback from my resource here, I can just type my note in this field. When I click Add, I can see it, notes to my resource. They can log in or from wherever they're accessing the application, and they can see the note that I've typed back to them. And again, you can see that time stamp or that date stamp and my username who typed that note. Now moving into Primavera 8.2. First, we have enhanced Microsoft Project import in P6 Professional. So we can update an existing project when importing a Microsoft Project XML file. This allows us to manage projects in Microsoft Project and bring the changes into P6 Professional to ensure the status of the project is reflected correctly in P6 Professional. We also have control of what types of global and project data to overwrite whenever we're importing. New import-export support for Microsoft Project 2010 in P6 Professional. You can export now P6 Professional projects as Microsoft Project XML files, as well as import those Microsoft Project 2010 files. And I have a screenshot here just showing you the drop-down of the different versions you'll choose whenever you are exporting to Microsoft Project. There's a new line numbering feature in Professional. So we can use the new Add Line Numbers option for each row in the Activities view when displaying an activity table, a Gantt chart, or activity usage spreadsheet. Line numbers will appear to the left of each row in a separate column. Numbering is sequential, starting with the number 1. So rows are automatically renumbered during data manipulation. So if you add an activity, delete a row, or you collapse or expand your grouping, you'll see those numbers change accordingly. You'll also see those numbers whenever you print out a layout as a report, which can be nice. If I go back to P6 here, I can show you I have my line numbers enabled here on the side. And I can find that in my view menu, line numbers. I can toggle it on and off there. And this is nice. If you print out a report, instead of telling somebody, check out activity EC 1800, I can see, go to line 18 instead. So it's a little bit easier whenever you're trying to have a meeting and coordinate with people to call out a line number rather than an activity ID. Installation and configuration enhancements in P6 Professional. We use a single P6 Professional installer to create the P6 Professional environment in one process. We can connect P6 Professional to an EPPM database as well as a P6 Professional database. So right now in my installation or my instance of P6, I have both an EPPM database and a standalone professional database as well. The next couple, we're going to look at our timescale logic diagram related, and we will walk through these slides, and at the end we'll go into Visualizer and see that timescale logic diagram function. So first we have new filtering in timescale logic diagrams. So we save filters with timescale logic diagram templates. We can apply additional filters within the timescale logic diagram application to enable you to more easily manipulate the data. You can see in the screenshot below that these filters look pretty similar, almost exactly to the way it is laid out in P6. Use sight lines in timescale logic diagrams. We can display vertical sight lines for each timescale line. Sight lines are background lines that aid in visual orientation. We can customize the interval frequency based on a selected date or a selected interval. So if we select the date interval of month with an interval frequency of 3, that means that the sight line is going to be displayed once every 3 months, and that's going to start at the beginning of the month. We also have the ability to choose line thickness, the color of the line, and the styles for each sight line. Next, we have enhanced activity code color coding in timescale logic diagrams. So we can assign colors for activity code values in P6 Professional, which can then be used in the timescale logic diagram. We can also modify colors while working with these diagrams. These modifications are not going to affect the color coding in P6 Professional. This is basically just saying we can set a coding, a color for each code, and then that bar is going to display a certain color, which is telling us what code value it has. Enhanced templates in timescale logic diagrams. So you can save timescale logic diagram templates to the P6 EPPM database and easily share them among users. We can share them as user or global templates. Templates can also be exported and imported to future enhanced sharing. It allows templates to be sent to other users who can then import them to their own system, which saves time and promotes consistency across the organization. Enhanced grouping in timescale logic diagrams. We can group activities by user-defined field in addition to project, WBS path, and activity code grouping. And I have a screenshot here that's actually showing you all the different categories with the different options or the number of different items that have options for to group in Visualizer for timescale logic diagrams. And finally, we have performance enhancements for timescale logic diagrams. So it now loads the data faster when launched from P6 Professional. With each release, you're seeing that performance is enhanced more and more, and even you'll see that with the service pack for 8.3 as well. Each service pack is making that Visualizer a little bit quicker. So moving into what's new in 8.3. First, we're going to look at enhanced XML importing and exporting. So when importing using Primavera XML or Microsoft Project XML format, you can import multiple projects as a single file. Before we had the option to import or export multiple files in the XVR format, but now we see that in XML as well. We can export multiple projects as a single file when using Primavera XML format. We can create templates when importing projects using Primavera XML format. And these templates allow for granular control over global and project data. Modifying global data during an XML import. So we can specify the import action to take when the same global data exists in an import file and the project being updated. We can use, demote, remove activity codes, user-defined fields, in calendars. So we actually have the opportunity to view maybe a global calendar and drop that down to a project level calendar if we see that as more appropriate. We also have the ability to rename these items whenever we import them as well. And we can map incoming resources to existing resources and specify a resource node under which to import all incoming resources. I'm now going to move to Primavera and I'll show you that functionality. I'm going to go to File and down to Import. Now I'm going to choose Primavera P6 XML. I do have an XML that I have already exported. Open, click Next. This all looks the same as it did before. And this is where we're going to see the differences. We have Update Project Options, and this is where we have our template. I'm just going to click Edit here to show you where we see these differences. First, in our Basic tab, we see our Global and Project Data tabs. And we see the options the same as they were before. We have Do Not Import, Insert New, Keep Existing, or Update Existing. These have not changed. If we go over to our Advanced tabs, where we're going to see those changes we were talking about. So we have these areas broken out by tab: Codes, UDF, Calendars, and Resources. I can see my codes. These are all the activity codes that I have assigned to the project that I'm importing. So here I see that these are all global codes, and I have an action here. I can select in that action drop-down, and I can decide, do I want to keep it as a global code and just import that in, or maybe I want to move that to a project code. I can also choose not to import it. Also here I can give this code a new name or the code value a new name. So if maybe I wanted to keep this a global code but I wanted to change the name, I have that option. If I move down to calendars, again, it's going to show me all the calendars that are assigned to the project that I am importing. And what's kind of neat here is I can actually choose, if I click on details, I can choose to see what makes up this calendar. So what are the parameters of this calendar? I can see that Sunday and Saturday are non-work days and that every other day is 8 to 4. Again, I can choose to keep this as a global calendar. I can move it to project, and I can change the name. And finally, we'll look at resources. So I have, as we said, the ability to decide which resource we want to import these incoming resources under. And I can give it a new ID as well. So maybe I wanted to map this resource to a different resource I already have in my existing database. I can select that ellipsis. It's going to show me my resource dictionary where I can choose the new name. Next, we have online help for P6 Professional. This option is to use local or online help. Before, when we were in the Professional, we only had the option to use the local help menu, which is still great, but online help gives you kind of, if something's been changed or updated, you have that real-time information. So by default, the online help option will launch the Oracle Technology Network site. And you can set to change the help location and shortcut keys in the admin preferences. It's great because you will get that online help if you're working and you have an internet connection. But if you're disconnected from the internet, you still get that local help that you're used to.
Hey, Carrie, this is Jake. I have a question about the online help. If I click online help, does that take me to the LinkedIn forums where all the users can help each other on LinkedIn?
No, fortunately it does not. It just takes you to the Oracle Technology Network site, which...
I think they should have an option for take me to online LinkedIn forums so I can get real help.
Yeah, that would be great. And the online help, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it looks extremely similar to the local help. And that would be great, Jake, actually get real people to help you. Next, we're going to look at the discussion feature in P6 Professional. So project managers can communicate about an activity with activity owners and other P6 professional users assigned as resources to the activity. So I'm going to move to P6 here. And I'm just going to select an activity. And I don't have my, I'm sorry, I moved it. So my discussion tab here. I can write a discussion topic in here. So if I'm looking to, maybe communicate with somebody who has a team member out in the field, I can type my note here. I can post it. Again, it's going to give me the username. It's going to say whenever it was posted. And if they do have a team member, they can then respond back to me in this discussion tab, or even if they're just using Primavera P6 Professional as well. They'll see that note and they can respond here in this discussions tab. My screenshot shows a little bit better, maybe the real conversation that might be going back and forth. So it allows you to really get that real-time information from your resources on site to the people who are in the office. Next we have load resource summary data upon P6 Professional Startup. This is a user preference setting that allows you to choose whether resource summary data will load at startup. My screenshot here, this is just the resource or the user preferences tab in my startup filters, and I have that resource summary data here at the bottom. This will just help with performance a little bit, so it's deciding how much you're loading whenever you log in. We have UN CFACT export, so export project data from the professional into the UN CFACT XML format. This is a format used by the United Nations Body for Trade, Facilitation, and Electronic Business. So you'll see that option at the bottom of your export format. P6 Professional and Unifier integration. So you can link P6 Professional project to a Unifier project and schedule a sheet using mapping definitions from Unifier. You can assign a cost breakdown structure code from the linked Unifier project to the professional project activity. You can use the CBS code to filter which activities should be sent to Unifier. So those of you who maybe are more familiar with contract management, you always have that ability to integrate and link your activities with contract management. And now Primavera Oracle has introduced Unifier, and you still have that ability here. And finally, we have Visualizer. So we talked about timescale logic diagrams building up to this point. Visualizer is a new feature for graphical reporting that supports Gantt charts and timescale logic diagrams. So this is just a continuation or enhancement of that timescale logic diagram feature that they added in Release 8. It facilitates the creation, customizing, saving, and printing of Gantt charts and timescale logic diagrams, and it can be launched from within P6 Client or as a standalone application. So I'll show you that here. First, I want to show you that if I go to my Start menu, I can launch P6 Visualizer here. I actually don't have to be logged in to Primavera P6 to use it. Or I can come to my Primavera P6 in Tools, I have a Visualizer option. If I select Visualizer, that's going to actually launch the application. It's taking a second to load here. And once it loads, you'll see that it is a very simple screen. So at the top, we just have a couple of options of what we can do. We can choose the plus to add a new timescale logic diagram or a new Gantt chart. The folder will open an existing timescale logic diagram or Gantt chart. Then we have the option to print and to help. I'm going to open an existing timescale logic diagram. We've been talking about timescale logic diagrams, so I'll show you those. And the first thing it's going to ask me is, what project do I want to open, or what data do I want to see? I'm just going to expand here and open up a project. I can open up more than one project in this view. I also can search for projects here. And I'll click Next. And I've already created a timescale logic diagram, so I'm just going to choose that baseline versus actual with steps and choose to draw. And that's going to draw the timescale logic diagram. So you'll see this is almost similar to a Gantt chart, but instead of having your activities listed on the left side, you have your activities just spread across a time scale. So I want to point out that these are our activity bars. We can have multiple bars per activity. We have our arrows shown that are representing the relationships between those activities. And we have also a number of labels on these activities. So I have my activity ID and name, and I also can bring in visually to see the steps on these activities. So I can see the step and the percent complete. If I want to modify this, I'm just going to go to Options. And we'll run through this very quickly. So I know we only have a couple minutes left, but we have our time scale. This is where we can set what date range we want to see. Here we have at the bottom for our background a start date interval, and our sight lines here that we talked about. So we can choose here to see a sight line, the interval that we want to see it. So we have our sight line by year, interval frequency of 1, and the style and color of that sight line here. I'm going to move over to my Bars and Labels tab, and this is where I can choose the multiple bars per activity here. So again, I have multiple bars per activity. It's showing me a full preview of what that's going to look like once I draw that information out. We talked about color by code, and I can show you here we have color by code. If I select this checkbox, then I can choose the code that I want to color, and then it gives me the activity code values that I can then choose the colors I want those bars to be displayed on. If I move over to my lines, I want to show you that we can draw relationship lines. But what I think is neat, if we go to connections here, we can choose to show lag. So this is a big one that clients often ask me is, can I see lag visually on a Gantt chart? In Visualizer, you can now do that. So I can show lag. It's going to give me 0 days, or I can choose just to only see it when it's not equal to 0. And we talked about this. This is where we have the multiple options for grouping here. And finally, the last thing we touched on was filters. So I can choose to use filters, and we do have this standard set of filters that we have in Primavera, and we can actually create new filters as well. I'm just going to click Draw and Save, go back to the screen, just give you one more look at the timescale logic diagram. I know we're coming up at the end. That is really all we have. So if you have any questions, I guess now would be a good time to open the lines for that.
Okay, and this is Jake Lilly again. And so if you have questions, because we've had some trouble with the process of muting and unmuting lines during the call, if you do have questions, please enter your questions into the GoToMeeting chat box, and I will relay those questions to Carrie, and we'll answer them together. But just put those questions into the chat box and hit the send button, and we will see those questions on our screen, and we can answer those questions there. So we have received 2 questions already, and actually both of them are from Samba, who has joined us. And his first question is, if we don't want to have EPPM Web, which is the web application, and we want only to have the optional client, then how can we manage administration? And I think that's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people ask us. And if you recall back to one of the earlier segments of Carrie's demonstration, she mentioned that the administrative functions, creating users and security, managing things like the OBS, user and security profile, those administrative functions have actually been removed from the P6 desktop client and moved into the web. But that's only true if you purchase and install the enterprise version of Primavera, and that enterprise version is referred to as EPPM. Now, if you purchase and install the enterprise version of Primavera, then what happens is you have a centralized database, either Oracle or SQL. You have a web application that you must install if you're going to use the EPPM version of Primavera. And you have now what's known as an optional desktop client. So the demonstration that Carrie's been giving you today is what Oracle Primavera would now refer to as the optional desktop client. And so if you install the enterprise version of Primavera with the optional desktop client, then all the administrative and security functions have been moved into the web. But keep in mind, you don't have to purchase the enterprise EPPM version of Primavera. You can choose to purchase and install the standalone, what's known as a standalone Primavera P6 Professional version. And if you purchase and install the standalone Primavera P6 Professional version and install that on your desktop, then all the administrations remain in the desktop client. And in fact, Karen might be able to demonstrate that for us from, are you on our standalone version of P6 or are you on our EPPM version?
I am in our standalone version. So on my screen now, you can see in my standalone version, I do have that admin drop down here. But if I log into my EPPM optional client, I don't have this admin drop down.
And that's the distinction. That is the distinction. If you install Primavera P6 in a standalone mode, then this menu is available to you. If you install Primavera P6, the client, in an EPPM mode, then this menu is moved into the web and it no longer appears in the optional client. So it's a little confusing. That is a new configuration. Let's see. The second question that we have is pretty simple. Can we get this presentation? It's very useful and informative, and that's from Samba also. And the answer is absolutely. We're going to make this presentation available on our company website, ppmglobalservices.com. Also, we are going to start a YouTube channel, which we have not done yet, but this video will be available from our YouTube channel. And then finally, we will post this this video to our to the Primavera users group on LinkedIn. We will also make a PDF version of the PowerPoint slides available for download from our website. So anyone who has registered for this session today, we will we will notify you when this video is available online. Let's see, any other questions? Okay, good. I have a question from Wayne. Can 8.3 be installed on a laptop, single user? The answer is absolutely. 8.3 can be installed standalone on a laptop for a single user, and you would be installing what's known as the Primavera P6 Professional desktop application. We have a question from Ken Harrison, and let's see, for Visualizer, is there a limitation to the number of activities? We had an issue trying to do larger projects recently, 5,000 activities plus. Okay, great. And so actually, Ken, I believe I'm actually aware of your experience excuse me, Carrie, do you want to comment on that and maybe reference some of Steve's experience with that?
Yeah, and I think that Steve's experience actually goes right along with Kenny's experience. So I think at least what I have been told is that with the new service packs, they are working on that issue. But you know what they saw was whenever they were launching extremely large projects, upward 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 activities, it would actually just kind of freeze up and shut down. So it would never actually draw the information out. It was too much for Visualizer to handle. My understanding, though, is that they are trying to fix that with the new service pack.
Yeah, so absolutely. To answer your question is yes, there were with the first release of Visualizer, and I believe that was that 8.0, Carrie?
Yes.
There were
time to logic diagrams in 8.0, and then became Visualizer later on.
Became Visualizer later on, and I think it was 8.1 or 8.2. But there were known performance issues with those first releases, and those have been a focus of Primavera to improve those issues. I don't know about the limitations of 5,000 activities. We'll have to we'll have to look into that. Let's see. We have another question from Wayne. Does Visualizer act similar to Milestones Professional? You know, I'm not familiar with Milestones Professional. That's not a term I'm familiar with, so I may not be able to answer that question. Carrie, does that ring a bell to you?
No, the only thing I could think is that maybe, you know, I'm not sure if it's referring to a different application or if just the milestones within a project. But they do the milestones within a project, if that's what you're referring to, is they do function the same. So you'll see that as a diamond on the timescale logic diagram or in the Gantt chart.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Well, I'd like to thank each of you for taking time out of your day to participate in this webinar. This is the first of what we plan to be a series of webinars that we will make available free to you as a way to connect with you and to share our information with you and give you the opportunity to ask us questions along the way. Again, we will make the videos available on YouTube, LinkedIn, and our website, and the PDF version of this PowerPoint slide available for download from our website. So from here, we'll go ahead and adjourn our webinar. Thank you again, and please look forward to future updates and invitations to join our later webinar sessions. Thank you very much.